Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today it's time to have a look at some of the updates after update 1.87. Basically the little changelogs or the little server updates that happen after a major patch comes out, which normally either fixes a few things or changes a few things that were forgotten in the update. Now just before we get into it, I do want to say a few people have been worried about the amount of videos I've been producing. Don't be. As I've said many times before, I've done this amount of videos for the last year or even more. I can easily keep this up. It is not fatiguing in the least for me. One of the only things that I'm having to cut right now is a little bit of sleep, and I'm completely fine with that. On top of this, please look in the next few days to changes to the channel. I'm going to be setting up a Subscribe Star account if you want to support me in that way. And also on the Tech Hub, we're going to be revamping some things such as the tournaments and also some of the giveaways. So yeah, look to that in the next few days. But right now, we're going to go over some of the server update stuff just to show you what's going on in War Thunder. So the first one is the server update of the 12th of the 3rd, 2019. And the first thing is that the 125mm 3BM22 penetration values were updated. Now, as many people have wrongly talked about, but even though Gaijin have decided to use the Land Odermatt formula, I should say, or formulae. The fact is, at the end of the day, you've still got to plug in values to that formulae, and also you have to use constants. So even though you may think the formulae isn't good, or you would rather something else use, such as historical data, understand that historical data is used in these formulae, and therefore submitting bug reports, submitting stuff like that to the forums is always a good idea if you want to see stuff changed for the better. The T64A, T72A, the 3BM15 is being replaced with the 3BM22, and the 3BM12 is being replaced with the 3BM15. If I was to guess, this was to deal with some of the high-tier vehicles that we've just got put into the game. One of the things that we're going to see moving forward, and we can already see, is that there are vehicles at 9.0 and 9.3 which are going to really struggle against these new 10.0 vehicles that were just put in until they get moved up in BR, which could be a month, could be 2 months, who knows. So a lot of vehicles to look to are the 9.0s to see how they're going to match up against the 10.0s, and right now it ain't looking good. So a little change like this to the T64A and the T72A is going to help them out a lot. The C1 Ariete, a bug with impossibility of shifting to second reverse gear, has been fixed. Maximum power RPM has been changed from 2200 to 2300 RPM. This is something I pointed out on the dev server, and it wasn't impossible to shift to second gear. You just had to use manual controls instead. Right now, when it comes to the C1 Ariete, now that's fixed, but it was something that was present on the dev server. I'm guessing it wasn't bug reported, which is fine, but now it should have its proper reverse. On top of this, the AS-20s and the AA-20 Nord missiles, these are on the G91R4 and also the Supermister, the MD-460. I don't think they've made it to anything else yet. The launch button in the settings has been changed to the launch of the missiles air to ground. The reason for this is because these are keyboard guided, so it makes sense to group them up with the bullpups, which are air to ground, even though the AA-20 Nord missile is technically obviously air to air. It still has the same control scheme as the other air-to-ground missiles, the AS-20 and also the bullpup. So I've actually seen a few kills with the AA-20s, and I'm quite impressed. Basically, the way that they work is they have a proximity fuse, like I talked about before. When they get close to a plane, they explode, and the shrapnel or the explosive fires into the plane. It's really cool to look at, and I can't wait to have a look at some replays of people using it. The research costs for the modification parts and FPE for rank 7 ground vehicles have been reduced. This was an issue that was going into the dev server, and to be honest, this is, my skeptical spectacles being put on, or I don't know what it's called, screpulous snake or sneaky snake, whatever it is. I don't think this was a bug. I think this was to catch people off guard once the game was released for update 1.87, so they spend their GE on the modifications. And the reason why I say that is because there is no thing here saying that you will get compensated for what you used to grind out the parts in FPE. So if I was just going to be a little bit skeptical here, for me, that just seems like they wanted to make a little bit more money on the first day. Now, obviously, this is taking a very harsh interpretation of things, but that's the only way I can see it. Otherwise, you would offer compensation for the loss to people if it was a genuine mistake. On top of this, it is nice that they have reduced these modifications. It shows that they are committed to the idea of having parts in FPE lowered, something that talked about a few weeks ago was that the 1st of March was a pinnacle day for the parts and FPE debate, because they said they would revisit the topic after reducing them last November, I believe it was, and on the 1st of March they would decide whether to keep the changes or not keep the changes. Well, it seems like since we haven't heard anything about it, they're keeping the changes, and hopefully that is the case. Maybe this will change when the economic changes will come in. I'll make sure to keep you informed about that, but right now it's nice to see that parts and FPE are reduced compared to other modifications, and that from the rank 1 stuff that you can get for ground vehicles, you only need one modification to get to rank 2. It's nice that they've kept those in. I've made my thoughts on it clear before. Very happy to see that. Makes the stock versus spaded gap a lot smaller, which for me is one of the major issues that we have in War Thunder, and one that I'm running into with a lot of vehicles right now at rank 5 and 6. The next update is 1.87.0.58. This came out today, and it's pretty much some little bugs which have been fixed, which is good, and also some changes to Apfsds, which I think will make a lot of people happy. Or, well, it depends what side of the spectrum that you're on. If you're playing 9 to 9.3, you'll probably be sad. If you're playing 9.7 to 10.0, you'll probably be happy. So let's go through it. The first one is a really interesting bug, and something which I am very surprised happened. So a bug where the M4A3E276W exhibited the 75mm M3 gun model rather than the 76mm M1 has been fixed. So I clicked on the source because I was like, what the hell are they talking about? I didn't really understand what was going on, and it takes you to the Russian side of the forum, and this post from Alto Angel O Nya, some anime stuff, and pretty much you can see that he or she has selected the 76 Jumbo, and it's actually showing the model of the 75. Now, I don't know whether this was an issue on Ultra Low, or this was just an issue in general. I haven't seen this reported anywhere else, but you can see here that he actually kills something with the 76 Jumbo, but down here the x-rays of the 75, and then when he gets killed down here, or she gets killed down here, you can see that it is marked 76 Jumbo, but it is actually a 75. This could have caused a lot of issues for a lot of players. Imagine if you had the model of, let's say, a Tiger 2P and you were actually in a Tiger 2H, right? Or imagine if you were in Tiger H1 and you were actually in a Tiger E, you know, something like that. Something which is kind of close, but, you know, different enough. Maybe even the Panthers would be a good example for this. Or, you know, a Sherman, which isn't a Jumbo. Overall, this is a weird and wonderful bug that I've never seen before, and I hope it's only limited to the Jumbo and it hasn't infected other models, because otherwise, one of the key elements of War Thunder is you need to know what you're fighting, right? You need to know what is on the other side to you, and if that is misrepresented in game, then you're making the thing 10 times harder. Like if I'm looking at a T25 or I'm looking at an M26, you know, American Pershing, I approach the fight differently depending on what I'm facing. So we have to have the models actually be what they say that they are, and you know, physically show what they are. So the Seahawk Mark 100, this is the German Seahawk, the premium one at 7.7. A bug with the secondary armament has been fixed. Well, that's lovely to hear. One of the issues with the not the German Seahawk, but the British Seahawk that a lot of people have pointed out, is the fact that if you have a look on the dev blog for the Seahawk, because there isn't actually one for the the German one, you can see that there is a ton of rockets which are piled up here. I believe it's advertised 30 rockets, and unfortunately right now, the Seahawk for the British does not have this. As you can see, here are all the rockets. This loadout doesn't exist for the Seahawk, so hopefully soon this will be changed. It is nice that the German one was fixed, whatever was wrong with it, and it still holds the title of the lowest BR vehicle with air-to-air missiles. Overall, I am looking forward to grind out the Seahawk. I'm not interested in buying the German one, but the British one at 380,000, I'm finding it very hard to justify grinding it out for another mediocre British jet, which is stuck between two mines. And I don't blame Guardian for this. It's the thing is, if you look at War Thunder from a holistic point of view, my ideal is that every vehicle ever, from about 1930 to about 2000, is added to the game. So then we just have to discuss which vehicles to add first. So I am kind of sad to see stuff like the Seahawk being added first over stuff like the Scimitar, right, and other vehicles which do have models, user models actually in the game. So for me, it is a little bit sad, I've got to say that fact, and I cannot justify in my head grinding 380,000 for a Seahawk when it's only 200,000 for a Sea Venom, which is after it in the tech tree. I've got a feeling that that would have to be changed for it to even be interesting for people to grind another, as I said, jet which is stuck between the idea of a fighter and stuck between the idea of a ground attacker, which, doesn't really work too well in War Thunder in air realistic. In ground realistic it does, but it's at 7.7, so unless you're top BR, guess what? Radar guided AA is going to blow you out the sky. The Type 74 and the Type 74G textures of the attached elements have been fixed. That's good. Overall, it seems like these have very similar models, so whatever issue the Type 74 has, I'm sure the 74G will also have it. The Chieftain Marksman radar allocation on the model has been fixed. This was actually reported on the dev server, and what was happening is, how the majority of radars spin horizontally? In a 360, what was actually happening with the radar was that it was spinning vertically. So basically it was going through the model of the marksman's turret, and I just thought that was really cool and funny, if I'm quite honest, because it's just, everyone else, is going horizontal, and then the Britbonger over here is going vertical. It's just, it's just one of those funny things. A bug with damage value and number of secondary shards for the following rounds has been fixed. Damage and number of shards has been increased. So the best way to look at this is all of the rounds that you see here, they have had a buff in the amount of damage that they can do. So you've got the 76mm 7662 Apfsds, the 120mm L23A1, the L26, so those are the Challenger rounds, the 120mm M829, that's the American Abrams round. Then you have the 120 OFL 120G1, 105mm OFL 105F3, and the 105mm OFL 105F1. I believe those are French rounds. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure they are. The 105mm Type 93 is the new round that the Type 74 and Type 74G just got. The 105mm M111, I'm not sure about, but I'm guessing by the designated letter, this is probably an American round. The 105mm M774 is, of course, an Abrams round, and then the 105mm DM23 and DM33, these are German rounds, which are also on Italian vehicles and also on I should actually just say Italian vehicles. They're also on Japanese ones in the form of the JM33, but I believe they do actually have a different model in game. Then you got the 120mm DM13, DM23, DM33. Of course, these are, German rounds. I also believe they're fired on the Otto Melara 120mm from the Ariete, and then the 125mm 3BM42, which is the top tier round for the T80U. So a lot of the top tier stuff is now going to be doing a hell of a lot more damage. I thought personally they were doing enough damage already, and I don't want, one click, one kill rounds. I actually want people to aim for key components. I want them to be able to learn how to one-shot machines instead of just having it arbitrarily increase. But if there is a reason behind this, like if for some reason the update screwed up damage, then okay, fair enough. But if it's just an arbitrary increase, I would have to disagree with it. I generally want people, especially at top tier, to have to aim. I don't like the idea of lol penning. I like the idea of armor being a factor, and in War Thunder it has been slowly getting to the point where armor is not really a thing, but luckily with this new update we have had a few at least heavily armored turreted vehicles, so I'm happy to see that. So pretty much all the top tier stuff is going to do more damage. Make sure if you are out and about at top tier to watch out for that from any nation. Once you are penned, you are going to get hit harder than before. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.